All right, we're back,
Can you hear me?
loud and clear.
I don't know what happened or
I don't know if it's just peak time or what. It's just like, for some strange reason, this is like never happened. So I don't know.
yeah, I don't know what to say, brother. I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know.
Yeah, man, this is. I guess I'll at least wave at everyone. Say
Say hello to
hi,
everybody as they come in.
hello, everyone.
And what
Sorry.
I'll do is I'll try to re-invite my friends. We'll see if this works.
I don't even want to take a chance in trying to reinvite anybody anymore. I don't want to deal with any of the technical stuff. I'll try. Let me try to reinvite some people. Uh, one, two. Mm.
We'll see if it works. First time for everything.
Yeah, yeah, we will definitely try.
Hello,
Um,
Kessia. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for coming back, Ian.
I'll invite my wife in. She's downstairs, so, and some of my relatives. Uh, uh, Jamal Jackson. See if I can find O'Shea. I don't know. I'm gonna tell O'Shea. I think he has something to do with this. All right, successfully sent. So,
Okay, so don't touch anything. Wherever you are right now,
uh,
all right? You okay there?
yeah, I'm good, man. I'm golden. Everybody, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I have no idea what's going on. It's one of those things where you say, this has never happened before, and it really has never happened before. So, with that, I speak the truth. So, hello. Hope everybody's having a good night. Tinyum Nochi.
So start with the introduction again. Tell them who you are.
My name is Larry, aka the American Brazilian. American Brazilian is a YouTube page that my wife and I developed. And basically, what we talk about is issues regarding marriage, specifically an American being married to a Brazilian and a Brazilian being married to an American. We also talk about social issues. We talk about people who, at some point, want to visit Brazil, people who actually um, looking to find a relationship abroad, somebody that's here that's looking to meet somebody in Brazil, and people that are looking to be a part of the Brazilian community where they are. A lot of people don't know that there's always pockets of Brazilian communities in every city. So we try to connect those people with those communities. So that's kind of like what we talk about.
Okay. So me, a lot of people here know who I am. My name is Yusef Watif. I run Black Expats in Brazil, and you guys are welcome to follow us on the Black Expats in Brazil channel and my personal channel, Yusef Watif, where I talk about, well, here's the thing. Yusef Watif is something I do in two places. I have it on my Instagram, and I also go ahead and put my YouTube here, which is where I do most of my good work. Most of my good work comes on my YouTube page. So I'll put that here for everybody. And I talk about a lot of things. I talk about everything from money, which is my favorite topic, social issues, and life abroad. I've lived in about 15 different countries throughout my life, and you guys can check that out there. I currently am in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm a permanent resident here. legal permanent resident. I'll still be traveling the world quite a bit when things die down. And then when I met up with Larry, he came through Black Expats in Brazil, and we brought up, we had a great dialogue, shared some information back and forth, and we decided to do this. He wanted to ask me a bunch of questions about my life in Brazil, because I've lived here for about 6 years, and for him, his cumulative time here has been about 6 months.
Well, the thing with me, it's kind of like I was saying when we first spoke today. Initially, when I started to travel again, I traveled on a kind of a work basis, and around 2017, that whole work type traveling thing had ended. So my mom at the time suggested that I get back in the air and start traveling. And I didn't really know where I wanted to go specifically, but I had this, I guess, this innate drawing to somewhere in South America. And for me, after, just kind of like going on YouTube, doing my research, I would hear people say things about, Costa Rica, which, I looked in that at a little bit. It was very nice. It looked like it was a very nice place to go. The Dominican Republic also, it looked like it was a very, tranquil place, very nice to go. And Colombia, same, and Brazil. But what I noticed is I kept hearing the same thing, and that was this: before you go to Brazil, go here. Before you go to Brazil, go here. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I have the resources. Why not just go to the pinnacle? Because that's basically what they painted Brazil out to be, the pinnacle. So then I came across this guy, Charles Tyler, who was, who's no longer with us. But at the time, he had YouTube, not YouTube, well, he had a YouTube page, but then he also had a Facebook group. And so I became a part of that group because I simply wanted to ask him some questions. I wanted to know was it real, the things that I had been seeing, through the, I guess, plethora of videos that I was combing through. And of course, he made time for me, spoke to me, sent me messages, and he told me, yes, in fact, it is real. It's even better. So, he told me, hey,
Can I have to make a good faith interdiction here,
okay,
because a lot of people know my feelings. I really wish that he was still alive, because I would love to have him on my show or have him on my YouTube to argue with him. Because, and I want to get this out early so that anybody who has a problem can feel free to at me. He did a lot of damage. He had a lot of people convinced that the country of Brazil was this magical brothel where you could get off an airplane and it was just women falling all over you. When in fact, what he was introducing people to was just a lot of staged prostitution. And I want to be clear. I have nothing against prostitution. Let me put this disclaimer out there. I have nothing against prostitution. There are a lot of women in the world who have nothing left to sell besides that. And I'm okay with that if that's how they earn their crust. But what I have a problem with are people who paint this magical picture of a place, because as I rapidly approach maturity, I tell people, I find what's happening when people pass that image off that somehow it's just different here, and worthless men who are, fat with nothing they've accomplished in life, and just worthless guys become an amazing woman. The game doesn't work like that. Quality women are quality women all over the world, but what ends up happening is you have these men who get these really terrible messages when the guys delivering the messages don't say what we're saying is true for the areas where there are prostitutes. They never add that disclaimer, because there are just as many. I'm a square. I tell people that all the time. I'm a square. I do nothing but lift weights. I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I make money online. I'm okay with that, because I'll walk out in the supermarket and start talking to a girl. I'll see a woman down the street, carrying a loaf of bread. I'm going to start talking to her, and there are millions of guys like us. But we tend not to swim in the same circles as the guys who are. And again, I'm not here to tell anyone that prostitution is wrong. It's misrepresenting what you're doing, telling these guys, oh no, Brazilian women are easy. And you know who it ends up hurting the most? It ends up hurting the black people. Whenever something bad is portrayed about a country, now you're putting black people in a position to be commoditized even further. And that's, maybe as I rapidly approach maturity, that's what I find I have the largest problem with.
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting because you and I, we spoke briefly about that today, and I feel the same as you in regards to, not really, like, I don't have a problem with it if that's what, now I'm not into it, but if people are into that, again, I'm not judging anybody. Go ahead, do what you do. And it was after the fact that I found out what you found out, that in fact that a lot of that stuff was staged. But here's what's interesting. While I was there, when I got to Brazil, I think it was on a Saturday or something that they had like this beach week. And at that beach week, they had, as you mentioned, people stage, like women staged or whatever. So I wanted to go and just say hello because I had spoken to them over the phone or whatever. So I just kind of wanted to say hello in person. So in the process of me walking on Copacabana Beach in the direction of where they had their tent set up, this young brother Sean, I don't think he's on here now, but I sent him an invite. But anyway, Sean was coming from that direction. And while I was going into the direction he was coming from, and he grabbed me when we met and he said, Larry, look, he said, I don't really know you. I've only met you for a few days, but that's not your crowd. And I was like, okay, no problem. And I turned around and went back into the other direction of the beach and the hotels and everything like that. So I didn't have an opportunity to meet him. Unbeknownst to me, he would pass away 2 weeks after that.
And that was the real tragedy. The real tragedy, this man, died without getting the resolution, because I don't wish any man an early death. I hope we all get to see, our healthy golden years. The unfortunate reality is that, some of us, it's a different, I'm trying not to berate a man who's not here to speak on his own behalf, because again, I love nothing more than argue with a person. It's just, I wish he was here for us to have that discussion openly. Sit down in front of each other, have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think he was a very personable guy, but I think it went left when they tried to play championship wrestling. Because interestingly enough, once I met my wife, well, let me take that back. When I was in Brazil, the woman that I was dating at the time, she made an interesting statement, and my wife has also echoed these sentiments. And she said what's unfortunate is that a lot of the good women that are in Brazil are looked at by outsiders as women of the evening, as prostitutes, like at first glance. And I think that was that's another damaging thing that could have been done, because when you go over there, you don't realize, like you said, you can just meet somebody in the supermarket, somebody just walking down the street.
You meet women in every country in the world the same way. Exactly. Go to your cousin. This is what ends up happening, and I'll tell you how they catch a lot of guys. They catch those guys that want to go to a country. They don't want to speak any of the language, not even a basic 3-month course, before they go, so they can sit down and have a cup of coffee. They don't want to do any hard work. They don't want to leave their comfort zone. Right? Mm-hmm. They'll go to a party with 50 other people from the same country they just came from. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many amazing things Sao Paulo, Brazil has? How many different museums you have here in art? How many of these, and this is what I'm hoping, so many of these small restaurants I used to like to go to, they would have little bands inside, have like a 3-piece jazz trio some nights, and sometimes they'll have a woman singing, and, another night it might be samba on the street. I hope those places make it. There are so many places like that. You can bump it. Hey, what's your name? Blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is you say, it's open. But you'll never realize that if you are staying in that comfort zone.
Yeah, and another thing about the comfort zone is, like I said, another part of what we do is people that would send us emails. Hey, do you guys, like, I get guys asking me, hey man, do your wife have any cousins or, any friends or whatever? And of course, what I try to do is I try to redirect them into the community that they're in, because unbeknownst to a lot of people, that there's like in Atlanta, there's a sizable Brazilian community there. And of course, places like Orlando, Tampa, Miami, New York, even places like Virginia, California, Texas, there are sizable communities, Brazilian communities everywhere. But a lot of people that, like, they'll see what I came from and what I have now, but they're still a little bit apprehensive. They're still a little bit afraid because, like you said, well, like we had been discussing, they have that every woman could be a woman of the night or could possibly be trying to get a green card, when in fact, most women in Brazil that I've met had no desire to leave their country. If you've ever gone to Brazil, put it like this right here. I don't know if you're going to laugh at me when I say this, but I just say it. I literally cried. When I got on that plane, I cried because the tá tranquila, the peace that was in Brazil that I had experienced was unlike anywhere in the world that I have ever been. And I've been to Africa, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada, I've been to Germany, I've been to London, a few other places.
Well,
But
watch this. I'm gonna tell you a secret. Do you know why I've never cried when I left Brazil? Because when I got here, I stayed.
You know, I thought I'm gonna tell you, I thought you were gonna say, well, when I left, I knew I was coming back. But yeah, brother, let me tell you something, man. You made a video, and I don't know if you understand how fortuitous that is. Let me say this, everybody. I'm one of Yusef's biggest fan because I think he's very laconic in his speaking. I think his videos, they are just, they're off-putting, but in a good way because of the practical application that he says in this video. But anyway, let me say this. You made a video about how I think it was, and correct me if I butcher this. You said, should we expect, no, are mass shootings the norm in America? I think that was the title. And I had made a comment, and that comment was, America has written with the ink that something spilled or whatever. And you was like, man, what are you talking about? And basically, what I was trying to say was this. America paints everywhere else as, second world, third world, fourth world, whatever. But it seems as though the quote unquote third world problems that they should be having in countries like Brazil or what have you, we're experiencing in America at an alarming rate. And when I went to Brazil, the police didn't harass me. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but they didn't harass me.
Well, we have to be clear, though. We got to be clear, and this is something that a lot of people have a hard time digesting about life in Brazil, particularly Black people. In the United States, I always give the example of Dr. Henry Louis Gates. They call him Skip Gates, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Renowned teacher, professor, author, videos. You can Google him, and he's just everywhere. Very smart man.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He was arrested on his own front porch because his neighbors thought he couldn't live in that house. Now, here's the trick. Everyone knew he lived there. A policeman could have Googled his name on his phone and found out who he was. But in the United States, there's a concerted effort to say no matter how much money you have, no matter how educated you are, guess what? You're still at the bottom of the barrel. Which in Brazil, is there an intersection between racism and poverty? Yes. But the difference is you can buy yourself out of the racism game. Where I live, Black people don't get harassed because this is an area where it's just not, and I just live in a regular neighborhood. I just simply don't live in poverty. And we had a conversation about people who love to go places and live with the poor people. I don't know what that's about. Clutch the pearls, not me. I wasn't born like that.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
But you get a lot of people who, they get here and they realize, wait a minute, when that cop car rolled by, they just rolled right past me. Yeah, because the neighborhood you're in just isn't a neighborhood where they're looking for people like you. Unfortunately, the neighborhoods where they are looking for poor people are heavily populated by Black people. So you have to get yourself mentally prepared for that.
Yeah, it's something that, and I'll just piggyback on this because it's always baffling to me. I came from an area that was not so glowing in regards to the socioeconomic scale. So, and that's just speaking euphemistically. I came from a poor area, right? So, area that was kind of riddled with crime. But if you were from there, you really wasn't subject to it because you knew all of the players, right? So, when I went to the country of Brazil, I had no desire to go to the favelas. I mean, I really like it. I don't get off on seeing people in indigent positions. I've
never had any desire to go see the poor places. That's not me.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you had a bankroll of questions you had for me, and we got to make sure we got enough time to get to them.
Okay, what made you move to Brazil? What made you, like, out of all the places? I know we talked a little bit. I don't want to give it away, but now I don't know the answer to this question. So when I say I don't want to give it away, I mean in regards to the other places that you moved. But why Brazil? What made you go to Brazil?
I have lived in countries all over the world, and I hadn't lived in South America. I trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you know what the worst thing that happened to my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was? Moving to Brazil. Because when I moved to Brazil, I had so many other things getting in the way of my training. Oh, what's this? This is samba music. Oh, what's this? This is a churrasco. Oh, what's this? You know, this is the Brazilian Art Museum. And so it was so many times I just realized, and I got heavy into my weightlifting again. And for me, Brazil, I thought I was going to, normally what I'll do is I move to a country for between 1 and 2 years. And I said, I'm going to go to Brazil for between 1 and 2 years. And after 2 years, I said, I kind of like it here. So I'm going to give myself 1 more year, and I'm going to find out everything I don't like about this country. I'm going to make a list of all the things I disagree with. And I balance that list against, do I want to go someplace else? Do I want to go back to America? No. And I said, you know what, I'm going to stay. And so I stayed, got my permanent residency. You know, one interesting thing about Brazilian permanent residency is when you got the card for, the card for Brazil, you can travel throughout Latin America.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Because they have I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Mercosul, the southern market.
Mercosul. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just walk across borders.
Wow. Well, I mean, so you just present that card, so it's not like the
I planned on going to some other places. Now, I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if when you and the missus come back here, you're going to be a married couple with a child, but you know that I run an expat relocation services business. Like, I literally help people legally come to Brazil and figure out what their situation is so that we can get them here legally. So if anybody wants to have any information about that, you know, be sure to send me a message on here on Instagram. We're going to pop this on your YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now here's my other question. In regards to fala português, speaking Portuguese, how easy was it? I mean, I know you said that, you know, you're still in the learning process, but at what point did you get comfortable, and what methods did you use to get to where you are now?
Então, eu preciso muito praticar meu português. Eu estudar todos os dias, mais ou menos todos os dias, 30 minutos, 1 hora. E falamos com meus amigos, minhas amigas, todos os dias. E eu gosto de Pimsleur aplicativo. Eu treinar 1 hora por dia no aplicativo, só falar, não escrever, escrevendo ou escrever. Só não escrever, não ler. Só falar, só pronunciar. So what that means is the Pimsleur app is something that I recommend to everybody. It has 5 levels for Brazilian Portuguese. Each level is 30 lessons. Each lesson is 30 minutes each. I tell people the secret to Pimsleur is you take each lesson twice. So on day 1 when you start, you take lesson 1 for 30 minutes, and then you take it again. Maybe you take it at the same time. Maybe you take it before you go to bed. Then you move to number 2. And it tells you you can't move to number 2 unless you know you got at least 80% of lesson 1 correct. Now, if it takes you a couple extra days, I'd rather have it take you a couple extra days. It doesn't matter. But I can tell you Pimsleur is world-renowned for being one of those apps that is really good at teaching people how to speak. I first heard about it from my friends who learned how to speak Spanish that were going to Mexico, Colombia, and they were like, Pimsleur got me ready. So that, are you fluent? Absolutely not. You know, I tell people when you get to level 3 in Pimsleur, though, after you've taken that 3 months before you go someplace, I say start 4 months before you go. When you get to level 3, though, you can actually get off the airplane, talk to the taxi driver, and, you know, sit down. You're not a knucklehead, but you got to want it. It's like everything else. There's no one that can force you to learn anything. You have to want it.
Well, I will say this, you know, as someone who started in 2017, took a brief hiatus, and then picked it back up once I met my girlfriend, who's not my wife. I think for me, the whole dialect aspect has been kind of one of the tricky things, but I'm getting that now because I watch Portuguese TV every day. And a really smart guy told me about the Pimsleur app today, and I got it, and I started my first lesson, and I'm on my second viewing, or rather a listening to it, and I've been sharing it with my friends. And
wait, listening? You're speaking, right? Because you can't just listen. You know that.
Yeah, I listen and I speak.
Okay. Like, I would just go to my window at night and pull up a chair and turn the Pimsleur on my computer and just talk out my window, because it only works if you're speaking.
Yeah, I
do it alone. Don't let your wife help you, because she's going to overkill.
I know. The cool part about it is I have other friends that I can talk to who are also in the process of learning. So, of course, I do it on my own, but then I have somebody that I can practice with. So that's always cool. And you're right. My wife, every day I'm saying stuff and she's like, no, because she taught Portuguese in Brazil, so to students. So, you know, she's always like, no, you're saying this wrong, you know, and she does it in a friendly way. And I've learned a lot through her, but she definitely is kind of overpowered.
You know what? I'm a firm believer, and, you know, and I say this in a very, and I tell people I'm very, very machismo in many aspects. let her be your wife, not your coach, because she shouldn't have to wear so many hats. I see so many guys, they want their woman to be the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and my teacher, and the mother of my children. Let that woman have some rest, please. She's got a new baby. Let her. She should not be sitting there correcting your homework.
Hey, listen. She's gonna be your new fan, because I'm sure she's listening. She's gonna be your new fan after she just heard that. She's gonna say, "You remember when Yusef told you, let me be your wife?" So yeah. So let me ask you this. Okay, was it difficult to navigate in the social societies once you got to Brazil, or did you kind of, they say, they that show themselves, they that have friends must show themselves friendly. You don't appear to be somebody who knows a stranger or who meets a stranger. So
no, it's only friends I haven't met yet. For me, again, I don't live in the expat bubble. Like, I run a group called Black Expats in Brazil. And during normal times, we have 2 events per month. One event, we might have a private event at somebody's house, like a potluck dinner. But I make sure at least 1 or 2 events, we are out. We're going to the juice bar. We're going to this concert. And I'm not going to let people just sit around and think you can just be around a bunch of other Americans. For me, when I'm not talking to somebody like you or online, I'm only dealing with Brazilian people. Gotcha. I have a couple of friends that are native English-speaking people from the United States, but I can count them on one hand. Everybody else, I'm struggling through text messages, leaving voicemail 15 times because I pronounced the word wrong. Like, no, you got to say that again. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a hot tip.
Go for it.
You're texting with one of your friends, and you use a translator, right? Mm-hmm. Never copy and paste it. Read it.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I do. I read it out loud, I copy and paste it, and then, this is the thing. I read it out loud, I take it to Google Translate, I look at the translation, I read it slowly, and then I'll copy and paste it. Sometimes I'll type it. Just depends on, what's going on at the time. If I have time,
copy and paste it, are you also speaking it to them?
Well, not necessarily, because I'll speak it when I go to Google Translate.
You should copy and paste it. That's no problem, but also speak it.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying in the little microphone bar.
Yeah, you got to get that. You got to get rid of that thing. Okay. Yeah, you got to get rid of that.
Well, that's what I'll do. See, I'm so glad we're having this live and we got through these technical difficulties, because I've already learned a whole lot since I've been on this phone with you. 1, to text and speak, and then to let my wife be my wife and not my coach. So listen, man, you're chock full of information, and I'm appreciating this. So let me ask you this. As the question is going to be kind of all over. I wish they would flow, but sometimes I'm just all over the place. So for people who would go to Brazil, I know you mentioned, or we were discussing the whole Charles Tyler thing, right? So for people like myself, who for some reason Brazil just resonates with them, they say, "Hey, look, I'm going to go to Brazil." They get on Brazilian Cupid. They find somebody that they want to meet. How much Portuguese should they know? It's a 2-part question. How much Portuguese should they know when they meet that person, if there's somebody waiting on them when they arrive? And how is the translator looked at by the Brazilian women in regards to the communication aspect?
Well, I'll give you an even bigger answer. I'll give you an answer that applies to every country I've ever been to, from Japan and China on one end to Malaysia and Spain on the other one, and Australia. Mm-hmm. If you're walking around, how much of a real conversation can you have through a translator? Okay? So 1, it's going to mark you as somebody who is fresh off the boat. Not inherently, there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to talk specifically about women. Again, there's a very, very old phrase that I'm going to repeat. I wish I was smart enough to repeat this to you. Mm-hmm. Women don't care how you run the race. They just wait at the finish line and fuck the winner. So what that means is the guy who, let me be clear about this, the guy who took the time, the guy who actually took the time to learn how to talk to them, to learn how to say, now, of course, I'm not at a point where I can discuss financial markets the way I can in English, but I can sit down and have a conversation about food, the weather. I like this kind of music. This is what I used to do in my old job. What do you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can have that conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm way better than the guy who's standing there, where is it, with his phone, and he's, hello. Because, again, when people see you're trying, when people see you're trying,
Mm-hmm.
they want to meet you extra halfway. You know,
Yeah.
the worst thing I've ever seen, I had a friend of mine, he said, hey, what? Me and the girl, we're going out, we're going to have some fish for lunch. Do you want to join us?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, because he wanted me to meet this girl.
Mm-hmm.
We sat down. We went to a restaurant. It was a nicer restaurant. You know, in nicer restaurants, they don't have pictures of the food. They just tell you what the food is. And this knucklehead, she had to read his menu too.
Oh
And I
my
was just
goodness.
sitting there. I'm just staring at my menu, trying not to look up and laugh because she was reading him like he was a toddler. And I'm thinking, man, that's gotta no matter what they tell you, that's gonna lower your standing in her eyes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every man needs to jump off the plane fluent in reciting poetry, but if men that I know will take 4 to 6 months to research the cryptocurrencies they're going to invest in, because that's something I deal with, if men I know are willing to invest 4 years of their life to a university education, as are most of my friends, why won't you take that 3 months and take an hour or more on a Saturday or Sunday a week and get to the point where you get off the airplane, you can at least sound like you gave it a try.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, that's the one thing they neglect. And you know what they end up with? They end up with those girls who are fluent in English. And again, there's nothing wrong with a woman who's fluent in English. But when you combine she's fluent in English and she's hanging out at those places where only people who are foreigners hang out.
Yeah, there it dies.
You know?
I got
And
you. I
again,
got
I
you.
want to be clear. I was born in the United States of America, which, as Chris Rock once said, if you're a black American, being born an American is kind of like having an uncle that molested you but then paid for your college. Being an American gave me a lot of advantages, but at the same time, you know, I know that if I had been born into a destitute situation in a country where I had no opportunity to get the education that I have, I might have picked up a pistol. If I was a girl, I might be out there selling whatever it is that I could. But I'm fortunate that I wasn't. So I will never blame the girl. I will never blame a woman for using whatever she's got to get whatever it is that she needs.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but that's my thing. So when you say how is it viewed, it's viewed exactly how you think it is. Go to a restaurant with your buddies and you see one guy. Now, sometimes I have to read the sentence twice because, you know, with food, they try to get artistic with how, you know, a flame grilled salmon on a bed of rice. Can't you just say fish and rice? No. So I'm reading flame grilled, grillado de flambe. No, that's bananas. And I'm working it out because I put it into work early. The day I have now is the day I worked for before.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, another question. It's something that I mentioned was my experience and something that I've heard, you know, kind of echoed through a couple of guys here that, you know, were kind of bantering back and forth. Well, you know, I want to meet somebody in another country. But in regards to the women that you've met or the people in general that you've met that live in Brazil, how many have you met those that are just clamoring to get to America, or are the people by and large that you've met lovers of their own country?
I'll tell you two things about Brazil. To answer your question clearly and forthrightly, I've met zero who have wanted to just go to America. I do know one woman that needs to go to America for something professional.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Brazilians, this is the second part, they know they live in paradise. Like, they're like, I lived in Hawaii for 6 months. They know they live in the best place in the world. They're not trying to leave. Brazilians are like, why would I leave the best place in the world? Mm-hmm. You know, you can get pictures of people hanging out on this beautiful beach with a waterfall, and you Google it online, and you're like, where is that magical place? And they're like, oh, that's just down the street.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. Yes.
That's just normal. What are you doing today? I'm going to go swimming. Go swimming where? Back here. And it's just this giant, it's like, you know, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Maybe we'll go listen to some music. When they say listen to some music, you'll go downtown. It'll be 15 people with drums, 15 women singing, and that's just Tuesday night. That's not special, mind you. That's just Tuesday night.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because you know that kind of actually gets into my next question. Before I ask you this question, let me make a statement. I found it to be, I don't know, cognitive dissonance in a good way. You know how it's kind of like what you see is not really what you think. And for me, when I went to Brazil, based on the videos and the research that I had done, just, you know, YouTube, internet, or what have you, they talked about like the peace and, you know, the vibe and the culture in Latin America. It was actually a few times more and greater than what I had been reading and seeing online, you know, and on the internet. What was your experience when you first got there? Like how, like the peace and the vibe, the ta tranquila, the whole piece. Like, how did you react to, like, what was it easy to embrace, or were you like is this real, or like what was your reaction?
I'm pretty chilled. I mean, when I got here, I found out, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and I just did it. I didn't give myself any kind of problems to adjusting. When I saw what the regular people were doing and eating and drinking, I just fell in line. I said, let me explore this.
Yeah, it was interesting for me when I went. I was in Copacabana, and I had a place like literally like a stone throw, like you say. You see this postcard with this beautiful water, and you look outside your window, and it's like you just walk up the block, and it's like the beach is right there, and it's like this crowd of people, and people are friendly. They're speaking, and to me that was kind of culture shock, but in a good way, because in here, not everywhere, but some places you go, you say hello to people. At most, they might nod their head, or they might give you a fake smile and turn away. And I'm not bashing America or anything like that, but I'm just saying Brazil was just, it totally blew me away. Let's
Well,
talk
well,
about
I'll
some,
tell you what I had to get used to.
what's that?
Have you ever been walking down the street, even with your earphones on, somebody will stop you and just start pulling on your arm?
No, no.
Here, you can be walking down the street and people, it's cultural to stop somebody to ask for directions or do you know where this is? So you can be
Oh,
walking
yeah,
down
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
street.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
doesn't matter if
Let
you
me
know the person. You
let
walk
me
by
make
somebody, they'll say, excuse me, hold on. I'm looking for the bank. Google said the bank was around the corner. Do you know where the bank is? And that's one of the real reasons I really had to get to the point where I got to be able to give back because I would have people say something to me. I'm like, oh, desculpa, you know, for Portuguese. I'm like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, when I was there, it was interesting. I think I was trying to go. I know Ipanema was on one side, and of course I was in Copacabana, and I decided I wanted to go for this long walk, right? So I was, you can tell when somebody is looking, you have that lost look, like they're just kind of looking down. And so this person came up to me, and they were trying to talk to me or whatever. Of course, no fala Portuguese, but I could understand a little bit what they're saying. But what I got from that was they were kind enough even to help me. Even though we didn't speak the language, I could understand enough to get the directions and get to my destination. But I thought that was pretty cool. It was kind of like a big Home Depot where you're walking down the aisle and people see you and say, "Hey, you need some help," So I
well, I
thought
have
that
a
was
friend of
pretty cool.
mine who's a fighter. He's a fighter out here as well, American guy.
Hmm.
And something happened. He got an injury, and because he's not fluent in the language and doesn't know things yet, he said there was a woman that he knows, not a girlfriend, but a woman that he knows, saw that he was limping, and she said, "What's wrong?" And just kind of muddled through. She was like, "Well, hold on, come to my house." Her mother is a doctor, and then took him to the hospital, made sure he got everything he needed, and made him stay at their house while the medicine took effect over 24 hours they gave him, and then sent him home. And he was like, "Well, let me take you out to dinner or something." They're like, "No, that's fine." Now, I'm
I,
not saying that's everywhere, and I will tell you this.
hmm
There is no place, and I'll make a bold statement here. I've never been any place in the world where people hate black people.
hmm
We are never looked at as the dangerous one when we travel.
Yeah, that's true. You now listen. Oh my goodness, I have been the places that I've gone to. We're always looked at as kind people, humorous, helpful people, but never dangerous. Never the
We're looked at
dangerous
as the
black
guys
people.
who survived it because
Yeah.
I remember being in Japan, and a lot of people don't know the Japanese people were basically like they tore through their side of the country just like the English did on the other side. But what's interesting is a lot of people that go to Japan don't realize that Japanese people, they say, oh, Japanese people, they hate brown people and this and that. No, they don't. They hate everyone who's not Japanese. But I've had conversations with Japanese people. I've had conversations with Japanese people because their culture
Hmm.
is definitely, in the past, they embraced war. And I had more
Hmm.
than one Japanese guy. He said, well, back in the old days when you guys were slaves, how come when you got free, you didn't go kill all the white people? Because that's what we would have done. We're Japanese. Like in Japan,
Hmm.
you hurt somebody's family. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to go murder your children. And we are just like, we just wanted to be free. They were like, that's weird. You should have killed all of them. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, because that's what we do in our country. Because Japan has a long, clear history of war.
Yeah, oh
You
yeah,
know, The
definitely.
Warring States period in Japan was nasty. I've
Mm,
gone to museums and seen and read some things that.
just crazy. I for me, it's funny. My wife and I, like I mentioned, my father-in-law, they own everything that they have. They do quite well by Brazilian standards. He owns this big farm where he raises like 60, 70 head of cattle and all of that. Then they own a home in the city, in Aracatuba, with a bakery attached to it that they rent out the bakery. So they do pretty well. And I had asked my father-in-law, hey, at some point, like you and I we'll talk today, my wife and I, we want to come there and get us a place on your land. He was like, sure, of course, it'll be on us to build it, but there's a portion of on his land that we're planning on, or we've been discussing, in getting us a place
Hey,
to stay
brother
because
Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Steven, I haven't seen him in a while. He's a good brother.
Jeremy Stephen. Oh, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? I know you shouted out Yusef, but what's up, bro?
Question: did that
Yeah,
give you any kind of timer? Because I think we're on an hour time limit for this. I'm not sure.
you know what? I'm not sure. I think they might, but I don't even know how long we've been on. Let me look and see. How long have
Don't
we been
worry
on?
about it. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, so it's funny because my wife and I we sat down and I said, honey, I think we might want to have an exit strategy with everything that's going on here in this country. And my wife, she's like this. She's like, look, baby, just let's just go. We can rent out the house, we can do whatever we do. Let's just go and move to Brazil. And I said something that I never thought I would hear myself say. It's something that I heard people say on movies. I was like, but baby, I've worked so hard to get this and get that. I don't know if it's just so easy to give up. But the way things look, and it's just the volatility is increasing here in this country. So I definitely have an exit strategy, but even before that, we're definitely working on our plan A, and that's to have some residency in Brazil at some point, sooner rather than later though. So let me ask you this. This is kind of off key. The food, was it easy? Like, did you find yourself just eating everything because the food is just so delicious in Brazil?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Was it something that you just had to back away from, or you just kind of like indulge?
Well, here's the thing. I know my capacity for food, so I really had to, I had to measure it out. There are some things like feijoada. I only eat feijoada twice a month. That's a very
Hmm.
heavy meal.
Yeah, I
Vaca
love
atolada,
feijoada. I love
you know,
feijoada.
vaca atolada is a very heavy dish. So
Hmm.
I try to limit that. But at the end of the day, I try to be responsible for my food choices.
Hmm. I know that you had mentioned like today, the video that I saw, the Guaraná powder. That's one of the things that I mean that really stuck out with me, and I was sharing it with my friends. I had them, hey man, where do you get that stuff from? Um, how did you come across the supplements that you found in Brazil? Was it like at the gym, or was it your own research? Was it the friends that you've met who also work out? And how easy is that stuff to come by?
Very easy. It's all easy. I have friends that, in Portuguese, the phrase is called fisiocultura. When you
Hmm.
go to the gym and you make friends with people in the gym, you just, it's not a difficult thing.
Hmm.
The
Okay, so
guaraná they sell at my tea store. I have a store that I go to buy my tea from. I'm not a coffee person,
mhm.
um,
I love
and
coffee.
I'm a tea person. And I go down the road and it's a tea and dry cereals place, so I can get my oatmeal there, my tea there, anything dry goods. I get there, and they have powdered guaraná as well.
I this was a question that I was going to ask you a little bit earlier. It just popped up to be when I was talking about the peace aspect in Brazil, and why you didn't cry when you left because you stayed. I've heard a few people say stuff like, "But man, isn't it dangerous over there?" Talk about just the average everyday life living in Sao Paulo.
São Paulo, Brazil is one of the largest cities in the world. It's 4 times larger than New York City. So
Hmm.
when people say Brazil is dangerous, I go, well, what part of Brazil? They say, well,
Hmm.
Sao Paulo. Isn't Sao Paulo dangerous? I say, well, what part of Sao Paulo? I have neighborhoods in my city that are bigger than most states.
Yeah.
So when they say I heard something bad happen, well, I heard something bad happen in your neighborhood too. They act like people don't get robbed in the United States. And the thing is, when people say, is it dangerous? I say, well, listen, if you're walking down the street, with your phone out here going, hey, mom, look at me. I'm in Brazil. And somebody runs by and snatches your phone. That's not Brazil's fault. You're just an idiot. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that in downtown LA. You wouldn't do that in downtown New York City. You wouldn't do that in downtown Dallas. You wouldn't do that in downtown Chicago. Why are you mad at Brazil?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I know a dude who has, he's a famous YouTuber. He's got a MacBook Pro. He's got all his stuff set up. Do you know this knucklehead went to the park, sat his computer down, turned around, walked over to a place to see where he wanted the video, came, like, it couldn't have been more than 10 feet, but his computer was gone, and he was mad at Brazil. Like, what? You just left a $1,300 piece of equipment on a bench. I just went over there. Would you do that at home? No.
Mm-mm. No, at home, he may have been robbed with it in his hand, depending on where he is.
You know, that's the thing. Like, I don't understand these people that go, I heard Brazil is dangerous. Well, I guess if you go to the wrong neighborhood, it is, just like where you're from.
Exactly. Let me ask you this, in regards to, like, what is the perception of the police in Brazil amongst the people there? Because I know here, well, with people that kind of look like me, there's there's always this air of suspicion and apprehension when dealing with them. How is it in Brazil?
I'm not qualified to answer that question because as soon as I'm here, you're viewed as an American first.
Okay.
So I would have to actually bring you some of my Black Brazilian friends to give a qualified answer because I'm not going to be looked at the same way a regular Black guy from Brazil is. So I would be lying if I gave you an answer.
Well, let me say this. Okay, and maybe I'm still asking for an answer, but as an American, what is your experience based on what you've been seeing and hearing in Brazil in regards to how the police interact with the people? Is it juxtaposed to America, or is it?
Well, you got to remember, I am in downtown or middle class areas where the police just walk around or drive around. I've never seen. I'll tell you, I remember one evening, I got off a city bus and I was walking up these stairs where I go, you know, to walk home. And the police had about 5, to me and you, they're kids, although they could qualify them. Let's call them 16-year-olds.
Okay.
You know, and they had all of them against the wall with their hands up and the guns were fully trained on them. You know, they don't keep their guns in their holsters. If they arrest somebody, they immediately point the gun at you.
Wow.
And they were all different shades of brown. So it's like, that's the worst I've seen. Have I ever seen the police beating someone? No. Have I ever seen the police shoot someone? No. But I'm not living in places where that's common.
Gotcha.
If you went looking for it, I'm sure you'd find it.
You know, it's something that, speaking of, you know, races and different, you know, the color aspect of it. It's something that my wife told me that I found. I was like, wow, really? I had to ask her a few times. And I was asking her about race or whatever, you know, because she was telling me things that she had saw here on American television. And I said, well, honey, isn't it like that kind of in Brazil? And she said, no. She said, as Brazilians, we are just Brazilians. Because I noticed how, or at least here, I noticed the people that we interacted in the Brazilian community. I see the you know, the darker color, the fairer skin color, the middle color. Everybody's just, I mean, they're just so in love with each other. And I'm like,
well, that's in America. Here, that's not the case.
Okay.
Now, what I will tell you is that I have had Brazilians ask me, they've said, well, Black Americans have been fighting for equality for hundreds of years. Yes. So why do you still want to be called African American instead of being just Americans? Because here in Brazil, they don't have hyphens. There's no such thing as a Korean Brazilian or a Japanese Brazilian or Irish Brazilian. You're just, if someone asks what you are, you're just Brazilian.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. So that makes sense. Maybe that's why she said what she said, because she was just like, no, baby, we're just Brazilians.
Now here, you do find a lot of distinctions in colorism because one thing Brazil did way better or worse than the United States, depending on how you want to look at it, they did racism and slavery way better. What they did, you know, in the United States, we had the 1 drop rule. If there was 1 drop of black blood in you, you were in that corner over there. But we all group together. Here, they would say, well, you're 20% lighter than this person, so you're in a different area. You're 20% lighter. So it put a lot of black people in a situation where there was nothing to be gained by mixing. And in that aspect, they would judge them by how close to white they were, which is something that is still kind of, you still kind of see that now. You know, I have seen, you know, to get into colorism, I have been out with my friends and we'll go out and they'll say, oh, you know, my friend from, you know, from around the way is coming. She's going to bring some people. And I would see women that were far more beautiful than any model you've ever seen in the United States. If I could have a magic portal to just bring, you give me a magic portal that I could use to bring just 10 black girls that I've seen here to the United States and get them modeling contracts and I can take 10%, I'd be rich. But here, they're told that they're ugly. And here's the part that a lot of Brazilians freak out about. Men from all over the world come to Brazil looking for a Brazilian wife. Men from Japan, men from Germany. And do you know the ones they go straight to? They go straight for those dark and lovely girls. They're like, I want to marry this chick and I want to take you back home with me. So then they're shocked, but why did he marry her? She was so dark skinned. And they're like, and you look at him and you're like, you don't really understand what you just said. And I know that in their mind, but why wouldn't a foreigner want to marry a lighter or a white woman? It's like, you can marry who you want to, but they don't understand there is a demand for black women.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's very weird. Because I know guys, like, I'll tell you, man, I lived in Japan. Japanese men love black women.
Oh, yeah.
Whoo! You know, and they'll come to Brazil, hanging, because they have the second largest population of Japanese people outside the United States. Outside Japan is in Brazil. You know, and so you'll see these Japanese guys, and they will marry up a dark-skinned black woman in a heartbeat. And I mean, these women are gorgeous. And then it's just awkward because you'll see people look at them and they'll go, well, you know, they always assume, you know, he's this rich guy, and he's got money, and she must be poor. But then their own math kind of turns on them, and they go, but wait a minute. If he's got money and he picked her, what does that mean?
That's I like that.
And you say it over and over again. German men have a big presence here too, and they will marry a black woman so hard and so fast.
Yeah, it's so funny, man, because like when I was in Brazil and I was dating the woman that I was dating, not that, you know, resources are not important, but to one thing that I have learned, and my wife told me that this too, if you're going to deal with a Latino woman, you better understand the importance of family. I mean, family to them is like everything. My wife has about 300 cousins, and she knows all of them. To me, that just freaks me out. How can you know all these people? But she knows them all. And the things that, like, when we want to do something, everything has to be centered around that. And I found that was pretty, it was pretty refreshing. You know, you always talk about family first. I know here that's a moniker that we always say, family first, which in some cases people do that. But they do it on a whole nother level in Latin America, and I like that.
I know this dude. I got a buddy of mine. He came out here, met this woman. I don't know where, I forgot where she worked. I forgot how he met her. You know, one thing leads to another, and they start dating, and out of nowhere, he's like, hey, we're going to be us now. And he said, listen, you know, Watif lives downtown. He's got this little apartment. He showed me some couple other places we could live. And she said, well, that's too far away. He said, what do you mean? She said, well, that would mean that it would take me on the train to get back to my mother's house about an hour and a half. And he was like, well, you know, we can go there for Sunday dinner. And she was like, what do you mean? Her expectation was that she was going to see her family at least every other day, that they were going to go to each other's house.
Oh, my goodness. Man, let me tell you something. Brother, when our baby was born, and even up until now, there are days when my wife would just cry. I'm like, baby, you okay? She was just like, I miss my mom. I miss my dad. And it takes everything within me to just say, you know what? Let's just rent the house out. We'll get rid of the cars. I'll do something with the businesses. Let's just go to Brazil.
Well, here's the game plan. Here's the game plan. You could come here and put your child in a school better than the one he would have gone to in the United States, in a private school.
Yes, that's what she told me. That's exactly what she told me.
That's the game.
Yeah, I tell you, man, Every day I think about it. Like there's not a day that goes by where my good friend who's engaged to my wife's cousin, we don't talk about. Matter of fact, he was sending me properties in Sao Paulo today, homes in Sao Paulo. Of course, if I move, when we move, we'll be moving in Aracatuba, which is a gorgeous place, in all in itself, very big. Like I was telling you, it's weird how this place is half the size of the city that I'm in, but it only has 193,000 people for their population, wherein the city that I'm in, it's double, and we have like almost a million and some change, so there, and I mean, the skyline is beautiful. They have big buildings, everything. So literally you wouldn't lack anything. It's just, pushing that button. But I tell you, there are days when she cries, and she's on right now, or me and more, Fabiana, she's on right now. Where I just literally, like, one day she didn't know I was this close to my teeth. I was literally like just go buy the tickets. I was that close.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the game. You and me will talk afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Map it out. See what it would really take. Now, don't tell her so she gets all excited about it.
Uh-huh.
But, we'll open a Google Drive and just start putting information there. And I want you to really map out, if this was going to happen, what is the time frame? Because it's not going to happen overnight. But if you said, what if I said by January 1st, what would it take before January 1st of next year, we are in her city in a house? What is that going to take logistically? What is that going to take, as far as renting the stuff out here? I wouldn't say sell your assets, but renting them here.
No.
How long would it take you to put your second in command in charge of part of your businesses? Because here's the thing. The amount of money that you need to live well out here is so much lower than the amount of money you need to live well there. It would behoove you to take your staff, maybe you got a number one staff person, and give them a double raise. Give them two bumps up and say, I'm only going to come back every 3 or 4 months to check out the operation, because even though it seems like you're losing money, you're still going to be living like a king with the money you got over there. The first time I heard about that, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for 10 years, and there was a woman who was a Brazilian woman. She came to Vegas, and she started working in a casino.
Mm-hmm.
And she would volunteer in the kitchen because she wanted to learn how to cook. Then she opened a small restaurant, and then lo and behold, she got 2 big restaurants. So she got to be about 50 years old, and she called all her staff to the front one day and said, I got a deal for everybody here. I'm going to leave this restaurant to all of you. I'll come back every now and then and check on it. I'm going to promote. My 3 managers are all going to be promoted. All I want is for you guys to kick back to me something like, 40%, 50%. Because she said she was just going back to Brazil and live off the residuals.
Mm.
The interesting thing was, she said everybody wanted the deal, but nobody wanted to be the person in charge.
Oh.
Remember that video you talked about responsibility?
Yeah. It's I don't know that even as a kid, hearing people say, well, no, I don't want that. I don't want the responsibility. You can't have the promotion without the responsibility. If you frown on the responsibility, you frown on the increase and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, because they know she was serious about her money. They worked with her long enough to know, because here's the thing. She even told them, what you guys don't realize, she's like, I'm hardly ever here anyway. You guys run the whole place.
Wow. Man, that's definitely something to think about. Well, I know once I get off, she and I know she's going to be talking because she's literally on right now. Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation. My wife, she's a trooper, man. Definitely I struggle meeting her. I'm going to ask you this as, I'll ask you this as a last question. Was it once, I know America has its issues, and I know when you got to Brazil, but was it a defining moment that caused you to say, I am not leaving here, I'm never going back to America? Or was that a line that you drew in the sand prior to going to Brazil, while you were in Japan?
I was in China before I came to Brazil, and I can safely say to you, I knew I wasn't going back to America when I left the last time, because I've traveled the world quite a bit. But after I got done with my financial career, I retired from that at about 37 years old. I knew I wasn't going back. I was like, I know, this is the thing, you can't unknow once you know something. I know that I can live anywhere in the world, and even if I have to work just as hard, I'll have a better standard of living. Now, I didn't know where that was going to be. And a lot of my friends were shocked that it wasn't in Asia because I had spent years in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, China. So they thought I was going to end up in that side of the world. And, you know, I've been to Australia, which is, it's all right. You know, I've been to London, which is, I got to tell you, man, England is not a fun place. Like,
yeah,
the weather is bad. The food is worse.
people,
You know,
yeah,
you've never been out with a bunch of your friends and somebody said, you know what, I'm hungry. You go, you know what, I could eat too. And so one guy says, oh, I found this new Japanese restaurant. And you got another buddy of yours that says, no, I found this new Italian restaurant. You've never had somebody pop up and say, oh, I found this new English restaurant.
nope.
That's never happened because nobody likes their food. And my goodness, the women are ugly. Like, wow, are they ugly?
The teeth
Have
are
you ever-
not good. Yeah,
Woo!
when I was in London,
And their skin is this weird color that they get because they don't have any sun.
this
You know,
pale vitamin
it's
D
weird.
vitamin,
And here's the scary part is whenever you see the Miss London or Miss United Kingdom, it's always a woman who was born in Nigeria or a woman who was born in Poland or a woman who was born in Morocco or born in, you know, Yugoslavia who moved to London. You're never going to find, you know, Shelley McShimbleshanks from Essex, you know, in her spare time she enjoys plowing fields.
Nah, that's not gonna happen. That is not gonna happen. Yeah, there was. I didn't really dig it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the rolling hills and stuff like that with the sheep and the shepherd and stuff. But that's not a place that I want to be. And then all of the cameras on every corner just freak me out. I'm like, my goodness, you can't throw bubble gum down without somebody seeing it. So I didn't really dig it. But and it's super expensive over there too. So yeah, and they didn't have lemonade. I asked for lemonade, they gave me Sprite. That was weird to me. But yeah, so yeah, that was kind of like the questions that I wanted to know. I'm sure that I'll probably get a lot of inbox messages from people that saw this and people that will see this once I put the video out. And ask me other questions. Of course, if they ask questions in regards to relocation, obviously, I'm going to put your link in below in the description box so they'll know that they can talk to you directly in regards
And I tell
to
everybody, feel free, you know, feel free to add me as a friend here. Feel free to add me at Black Expats in Brazil. I'm also going to put up there is my YouTube, you know, for everybody who wants to catch me there. It's, you know, I'm here for everybody. If you need me, I'm there.
Well, I'm definitely going to big you up as a wealth of information, somebody that's willing, not only willing, but, you know, because it's one thing to be willing to help somebody. It's another thing to actually know how to give the help that people need. And definitely you know your stuff, man. So, brother, I appreciate it. Thank you for just the conversation before and now, you know, and I'm sure after. Thank you for the conversation, man. Thank you for the information. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be flooding your inbox, man, after they see this video. And I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your patience as well.
All right, brother. I'm glad.
So the whole technical stuff was crazy. But thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody for watching as well. Oh, let me say this right here. There's a thing that I say on every video, and that is this. Tenho dia abençoado. Até breve. É verdade. This is your man Larry, the American Brazilian. We're out. Now I got to figure out how to end this thing.
You got to click the X where it says leave.
Gotcha.